I am not a mother at my age, and that being in my later 30s is something that people have opinions about. And so when I read the script and chatted with Alexis, I just knew that I wanted so much to be playing this role and to be living in this world with her.
Right off the bat, I'm very interested what it was that drew both of you to taking on this idea of the biological clock. I know it's a theme that a lot of women can relate to, and this movie does it in such a clever and interesting new way. So curious about that. Alexis, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, one thing I should just mention right off the bat is that the biological clock isn't real. Made up by some guy in the 70s, and we've been screwed ever since. But, there's no such thing. But, society tells us there is. And, it's an incredibly personal story for me. It's been the thing that's, kept me up at nights, the decision about whether or not to become a mother. It's been something I've really struggled with and thought about, and I would say was even tormented by. And so, it's the perfect place to write a horror story from.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Dianna?
I think I had a lot of experience personally from, I am not a mother at my age, and that being in my later 30s is something that people have opinions about. And so when I read the script and chatted with Alexis, I just knew that I wanted so much to be playing this role and to be living in this world with her. It was just an obvious yes to me.
Well, and the movie feels very timely too. Is this something that had been in the works for a while, or is this something that came together more quickly?
It came together quickly. And I have to tell you that, it's taken on a whole different life since Roe was overturned, because when we started shooting it, we still lived in a protected country, under Roe. And then on the last day of principal photography, the Supreme Court opinion leaked. And then 2 months later, back in LA, when we were shooting the cold open, that was the day Roe was overturned. And so the movie has taken on a weight and a heaviness that I certainly did not anticipate. At the beginning, it was like, hey, don't pressure women to have children. And now it's like, whoa, we got a lot of other stuff to talk about here, and the movie is unfortunately very prescient in that way, but I think also very timely, and I hope a conversation piece to keep people motivated to, make change and vote and find a way to get their autonomy back.
Yeah. And with that timeline in mind, I mean, Dianna, did that affect your performance in any way, or the way that you took on the character of Ella in any way?
I think we had kind of formed our world and our character, but that experience, that last day of shooting was really, really disheartening. And, then I was shooting in a country when it was overturned that women have more rights than it just was a very strange experience to have that last year, that experience. And it's obviously still ongoing, and I'm very hopeful for change, but we don't know at this point.
Right. Well, I love seeing you in these horror roles and seeing you kind of in this light. What is it about these roles that is appealing to you? Because I know we've got a lot of leaks out there, and it's such a fun turnaround.
Thanks. It's piece by piece, and I just feel very lucky that I've been given the opportunity to play characters that really inspire me and motivate me. And this was a real step in a new direction. I didn't know what it would be like to play in this world, but when I read Alexis's script, it was like, oh, if I'm going to do horror, psychological thriller, I want it to be about something like this. And so it makes so much sense. And to really play this character where every single emotion is explored, and there are so many layers to peel back and so many realities that she's experiencing or illusions. There was so much to play with, and it was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. But it was the most fun because of that, and just to really let go of fear in places that, the one stunt in particular was one of the wildest things I've ever experienced on set. Just really hanging over a 60-foot cliff with just a waist belt. I mean, we had the most incredible and professional and talented stunt team, but I was harnessed with like 5 guys in a rope and then a tree behind. Like this huge techno crane is following me as I'm running to the cliff. And I'm like, that was, now next up, Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah, we're going to get you skydiving next time.
Yeah.
But I always think about that was the only thing that bothered you. Like in the whole movie, we asked her to do the craziest things in the world. And not only that, a lot of times I would say, don't do that. We'll figure it out in post, or we'll use a different prop or something. And she was always just like, no, we're doing this. I'm doing this right now. And that was the only thing that, gave her pause amongst a million other things, like, putting her head this far from a live tarantula, which she dealt with with the grace of an angel and didn't even, so I just think it's so funny that that's the thing that bothered you was
the thing
the
that stands out for sure. But now that you mentioned the tarantula, it is weird to think about them not being in the same category of fear. I guess I'm quite afraid of heights. But that was the thing that was so fun was Alexis wrote all of this. And so she would say, oh, but we can figure out another way to do it. And it was just always like, you wrote it, I'm doing it. I signed up to this, to do all of these things. But what fun,
Did you know, but you were this, inner daredevil, or did this bring this out of you?
I am likely to try most things, provided having the right amount of support. This was not anything that seemed unreasonable given the strength and talent of the people that were around me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there are so many different kind of aspects of horror in the film. There's psychological, sometimes it gets a little gross, which I love. I'm curious for each of you what it is about melding those two together that becomes so powerful, because it hits different. Alexis, do you want to go first, or Dianna?
No, Alexis, I would love.
Sure. Yeah. I think this is I think of this movie as very much a psychological thriller with moments of body horror and hopefully a few really good jump scares, but really it's about watching this woman's psyche unravel. And I think that the true horror of the movie is watching a woman go against her better instincts over and over and over, every time she takes one of those pills, every time she, makes the decision to go against herself and living her truth and her authentic life. That's the true horror. That's the true psychological factor in it. And I think that hopefully that's what makes it devastating and what makes people think, ooh, I gotta really take that brave step and live a life that is true to myself. I think it's the bravest thing a person can do. And I think it's one of the hardest things a person can do.
Yeah, absolutely. That little kernel of truth, is that there for you as well, Dianna?
Absolutely. I think everything that Alexis said is really spot on.
Absolutely. Well, I really loved the movie. It was very fresh, and it was a great watch. And you definitely got me with a couple of those jump scares. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking with me. I can't wait for everyone to see it.